So, this is kind of how our health session plan is going to go. Our test is next Friday, the 27th. Okay, our test is next Friday, the 27th. Okay, so next week, my suggestion is that you try to have all your homework done by this Friday. And the reason for that is because you have a quiz on Friday. If you can't get it all done by this Friday, then I would take the weekend and try to get it done over the weekend. The reason is you kind of want next week to review. You're going to have a couple different opportunities to review and some different stuff. So I think it's a good idea to have next Friday or next week mostly to review. So today we're doing equations, Monday we're doing inequalities, and Wednesday we'll do everyone's favorite word problems, right? Okay, here we go. Okay, so this is our very first equation. We do have to distribute, and we will end up with variables on both sides. So we're going to go ahead and get started. We've got to distribute a couple of things. Okay, we've got to distribute the 2. What do I have to distribute here in my second one? Negative 1. Okay, so we've got the negative. Some people go so far as to write a 1 in front of it. Okay, some people write the 1 there, and it's fine either way. You can write it or not write it, whatever works for you. Then I've got to distribute my 4. So that's what I'm going to do first. 2 times 2x is 4x. 2 times 1 is 2. Okay? Then I have negative 1x. If you wrote just negative x, you're fine. Negative 1 times negative 4 is positive 4. Then I have 4 times x and 4 times 5. Okay. Now, what I want to do now, so the first thing I did was distribute. The next thing that I'm going to do is I am going to combine like terms that are on the same side of the equation. Combine like terms on same side of equation. Okay? So, I have 4x and negative 1x, then I have 2 and I have 4. So that is what I'm going to combine. 4x minus 1x is 3x. 2 and 4 is 6. Okay? Now, I have variables on both sides of my equation, so my advice is to get in the habit of moving the variable to the left. And we talked about why when we did inequalities. Now, if you end up moving it to the right, you're fine, okay? But I just think it's a good idea to get in that habit of moving variable to the left.
So,
okay? Yes.
So if we're mistaken by doing it to the right or the left, it's fine?
It's fine. It's fine. It's mathematically correct to move it to the right or the left. Because in this situation, some students would prefer to subtract 3x because it keeps it positive on the right. Okay? Okay. So I have minus 4x on both sides. If you subtracted 3x, that would be fine. You would still get the same answer. Here I'm left with negative 1x plus 6 equals 20. Okay? My next step is going to be to isolate the variable. That's going to be the last thing that I do. Isolate the variable. Okay? I'm isolating my variable. So I subtract 6 from both sides. I'm left with negative 1x equals positive 14. I divide both sides by negative 1, and my x is negative 14. Okay? How are we on that? Good?
I made a mistake.
Okay.
I got positive.
You probably dropped a negative somewhere, would be my guess. Oh. Do you want to take a picture of that real quick so you can keep referencing it?
Oh, you know what? I think yeah, I accidentally put a negative in front of the 14 before I divided.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So here is a similar one. It's very similar to the one that we just did. So we've got lots of distributing that we have to do first. So we need to distribute our 2, our 3, and our negative 2. Oops, there we go. So we're going to distribute this. 2 times 3n is 6n. 2 times negative 4 is negative 8. 3 times 2n is 6n. 3 times negative 3 is negative 9. Negative 2 times n is negative 2n. Negative 2 times 5 is negative 10. Okay? Now we're going to combine our like terms. I have 6n and 6n. So that gives me 12n. Then I have negative 8 and negative 9. That's going to give me negative 17. And that equals negative 2n minus 10. So I want to get in the habit of moving my variable to the left. So I'm going to add 2n to both sides. Okay, so I'm going to have 14n minus 17 equals negative 10. I am going to add 17 to both sides. And I have 14n equals 7. I'm going to divide both sides by 14, and I've got n equals 1/2. Okay? How's that one? Now we're going to get into the fraction ones. Okay. Can I go to the next one? Okay. Here we've got fractions. X plus 6 over 5 plus x minus 1 over 4 equals 2. What's that 2 over? 2 over 1. Good. So my denominators that I'm looking at are 5, 4, and 1. So I need a least common denominator that 5 goes into, that 4 goes into, and 1 goes into. 20. Okay? So what that means is I am going to multiply everything by 20. Multiply everything by 20 so that I can get rid of all my denominators. So I have 20 over 1, and I am multiplying that times x plus 6 over 5. And I am going to put that x plus 6 in parentheses, okay? Because we're going to have to distribute something. We don't know what we've got to distribute yet, but we're going to have to distribute something, okay? Then I've got 20 over 1, and I am multiplying that times x minus 1 over 4. Okay? Then my final term is 2 over 1, and I am multiplying that by 20 over 1. Okay. Now I need to simplify. I've got my 20 and I've got my 5. 5 goes into both of those. 5 goes into 5 one time. 5 goes into 20 4 times. 4 times x plus 6. That's what I'm left with. 4 goes into 4 one time. 4 goes into 20 5 times. So I'm left with 5 times x minus 1. Okay? There's nothing to cross cancel or anything on the last part. So it's just 2 times 20. And 2 times 20 is 40. And now this looks like something that we're more comfortable solving. So I still need to distribute here. Okay? 4 times x is 4x. 4 times 6 is 24. 5 times x is 5x. 5 times negative 1 is negative 5. Okay? 4x and 5x is going to be 9x. Then I have 24 and negative 5. That's going to be 19. Good job. Okay. My next step is to subtract 19. I'm left with 9x equals 21. I divide both sides by 9. Okay? Then I'm left with x equals 21 over 9. Okay? Now, 21 over 9 is an improper fraction, and it's okay to leave leave fractions as an improper fraction. However, this is not simplified completely. What number will go into 21 and 9? 3. So 21 over 9 simplifies to 7 over 3. And that's because 3 goes into 21 7 times, and 3 goes into 9 3 times. Okay, so my final answer here is 7 over 3. 7 over 3. Okay? Okay, can I go to the next one? Number 8. Okay, here's number 8. I have 2x plus 1 over 3 plus 3x minus 1 over 5, and that equals 1 over 10. Okay? So, I have a denominator of 3, of 5, and of 10. 3, 5, and 10. Okay, what's my LCD of 3, 5, and 10? Yeah, it's 30. It's pretty big. Okay, it's 30. But if I multiplied 3 times 5 times 10, I would get 150. So I definitely wouldn't do that. Okay, but 3, 5, and 10, they all go into 30. And so that's what we're going to use. So I am going to multiply everything times 30 over 1. Okay? So I have 30 over 1 times, and I'm going to go ahead and put the parentheses around the top, 2x plus 1 over 3. Then I have 30 over 1 times 3x minus 1 over 5. And that's equal to 1 over 10. And that's also going to be multiplied by 30 over 1. Okay? Okay. So now we're going to start simplifying. Okay. 3 goes into 30 and it goes into 3. 3 goes into 3 one time. 3 goes into 30 10 times. So I'm going to have 10 times 2x plus 1 5 goes into 5 one time. 5 goes into 30 6 times. So then I'm going to have 6 times 3x minus 1. 10 goes into 10 once. 10 goes into 33 times. And so I'm going to have that equal to 3. I distribute my 10. 10 times 2x is 20x. 10 times 1. 6 times 3x is 18x. 6 times negative 1 is negative 6. Okay, I have negative 6 and positive 10. That's positive 4. I did that in a different order this time, didn't I? I usually do my variables first. 20x and 18x is going to be 38x. Okay, then my constant 10 and negative 6 gives me positive 4. Okay, my next step is I subtract 4 from both sides. I have 38x equals negative 1. Divide by 38. And my answer is x equals negative 1 over 38. And that's that's a very, very small number. That's very close to 0. Negative 1 over 38 is very, very close to 0. Okay, we have one more fraction, and then we're moving into decimals. Won't that be fun? Decimals? Woohoo! I think decimals are a little bit more fun than fractions. Maybe, maybe not.
Sort of.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to the next one. Number 10. Oh, this is a good one. Because that nasty negative right there. So we want to keep that. We want to focus on that negative. Okay? I like to deal with that negative from the very beginning. So what I'm going to do, and I'm going to go ahead and do it in a different color. Okay? I am going to make this minus sign a plus. And then on the outside of this, I'm going to make that negative 1. Just to remind myself I'm dealing with a negative 1 here. Now, could you go ahead and distribute that negative 1? Absolutely. And some people prefer to do that. Okay? That's completely fine to go and distribute that negative 1. Okay? But that minus trips people up a lot. So I like to address it from the very beginning. Okay? Now, my denominators, I've got a 2, I've got a 3, and I've got a 6. So my LCD is not going to be difficult to deal with. What is it?
6.
You got it. It's 6. It's that negative that we got to make sure we handle. Okay, so I'm multiplying everything times 6 over 1. So I have 6 over 1, and I multiply that times 5x plus 6 over 2. Then I've got my 6 over 1. Okay, and I'm multiplying that by negative 1 times x minus 4. And remember, some people like to go ahead and distribute that negative, and that would be fine because you would have had negative x plus 4, and you would have been fine, completely fine. Then I've got 5 over 6 times 6 over 1. So, 2 goes into 2 one time. 2 goes into 6 3 times. So I have 3 times 5x plus 6. 3 goes into 3 one time. 3 goes into 6 2 times. Now, 2 times negative 1, I could go ahead because I'm going to have to distribute a negative. So 2 times negative 1 gives me negative 2. So I've dealt with my negative, and then I just went ahead and combined these right here so that I know what I'm distributing. So then I am multiplying negative 2 times x minus 4. Okay? And then over here, I'm left with 5. So 3 times 5x is 15x. 3 times 6 is 18. Negative 2 times x is negative 2x. Then I'm left with positive 4. Okay? 15x. Where did I mess up? Oh, I did. Yes, you are absolutely correct. Thank you for pointing that out. So that is positive 8. That's not very pretty either. Plus 8. Okay, thank you. So now I'm going to do 15x and negative 2x. So I have 13x. 18 plus 8 is 26. And then I have 5. My next step is to subtract 26 from both sides. I'm left with 13x equals negative 21. I divide by 13. X equals negative 21 over positive 13. Okay? So that is all the problems with fractions. It's all the problems with fractions. I know lots of you have classes. It's very casual, so please don't feel bad about getting up to leave, okay? I don't want anybody to feel, I know it feels like class, but please don't feel bad, okay? So now I'm going to do, it looks like I've got 2 with decimals. So here I've got 4/10 times t minus 6, 3/10 times 2t plus 5. Okay? Now, I have I've got 1 decimal spot here and 1 decimal spot here. So what do I need to multiply each side by? 10. Okay? If I had 2 decimal spaces, what would I multiply by? 100. If I had 3 decimal spaces, please don't let us have 3 decimal spaces. 1,000. Good. So I'm going to multiply everything times 10. Everything times 10. So that's 10 times this whole thing right here. Okay? So I have 10 times 0.4 or 4/10 and t minus 6. Then I'm going to have 10 multiplied by the other side. But I really only have 1 grouping on each side. So 10 times 0.4, it's going to simplify to 4. But once I've multiplied these two together, I don't deal with them anymore. I just deal with the 4. So now I'm left with 4 times t minus 6. Okay? Now I'm going to multiply t times 0.3. That's 3 times 2t plus 5. Okay? Now I distribute. So I have 4t minus 24 equals 6t plus 30. Okay? I've got 15 too. Thank you. I was looking at my page and I knew it wasn't right. 3 times 5 is 15. I think it's been a long day. I'm sorry. Okay, thank you for correcting me. So now I'm going to subtract 6t from both sides because I like to move my variable to the left. I always move my variable to the left. I'm left with negative 2t minus 24 equals 15. I add 24 to both sides. Yes, sir?
Wouldn't this be another fraction when we divide?
At the end, yes. We will get a fraction. Yes, our answer is a fraction. Okay? So then I'm left with negative 2t equals 39. I divide both the sides by negative 2. And my answer is t equals negative 39 over 2. Now you can have that negative in the top, in the bottom, or just in front of it. Okay? So it doesn't matter where that negative is. I almost always move mine to the top. It's just something that I do, is move mine to the top. Okay? Let's look at the next one. Now this one is different than anything that you've seen so far. The reason that it's different is because I have this inside. I've got it inside. Okay? And we're going to have to deal with that. Okay? But initially what we're going to do is we're going to deal with our 0.2 here and our 0.3 here and our 0.4 there. That's what I'm dealing with first. And remember, this right here is a unit. So I'm only going to multiply by that whole unit by 10 because all those things are being multiplied together. It's the same thing as 2 times 4 times 6. Once I multiply the 2 times 4 together, I've got 8. That's gone, and I'm left with 8 times 6. Okay, that's the same idea. So I am going to multiply everything by 10 because I've got one decimal spot on the outside of those. So I'm going to have 10 times 0.2 times x minus 0.5. Then I've got that negative. I like to go ahead and deal with my negatives, so I'm going to make it plus negative 0.3. So I'm going to have 10 plus 10 times negative 0.3 times x plus 1. Then I have 0.4 times 10.
But it'll still be negative after, right?
The answer?
No. I got the 3.
It's still negative. Yeah. It's
Even
still.
when we multiply it.
Yes, even when we multiply it. So 10 times 0.2 gives me 2. So I have 2 times x minus 0.5. 10 times negative 0.3 is going to be negative 3 times x plus 1. 0.4 times 10 is going to be 4. Okay? When I distribute the 2, that's going to get rid of my 0.5. 0.5 is a half. So when I say 2 times x, I get 2x. What's 2 times a half? 1. So I get minus 1 here. So that negative, that decimal disappears before we have to deal with it again. Now I've got minus 3x. Got to distribute that negative 3 to both, so be careful there. Okay? 2x and negative 3x gives me negative 1x. Negative 1 and negative 3 gives me negative 4. I add 4 to both sides, and I have negative 1x equals 8. So I divide both sides by negative 1, and my answer is x equals negative 8. That's my final answer. Okay? X equals negative 8. Okay? Okay, so here we have 1 minus 2x minus 1 over 6 equals 3x over 8. Okay? Our denominators are 6 and 8 and 1. So this is 1 over 1. Whenever we get confused and we're not quite sure what that 1 means, remember 1 is over 1. Okay? So my LCD here is 24. 6 goes into 24, and 8 goes into 24. So what we're going to do is we are going to multiply all of this by 24 over 1. Okay? Now, I've also got this negative that I've got to deal with. I am subtracting. So I'm subtracting the 2. It's 1 minus 2x minus 1 over 6. So I am going to change that minus to a plus. Then I am going to distribute that minus to all of this. And I'm going to do that first this time, just so you can see it done a different way. So I haven't dealt with the 24 yet. I'm only dealing with the minus. So I've got 1 over 1 plus negative 2x plus 1. So I have dealt with that negative. Do you agree? Because I distributed it. Then I have 3x over 8. So that's just another way to make sure you deal with that negative. Now that I've dealt with the negative, I've got 24 over 1. And so that's what I am multiplying each part by. So 24 over 1 times 1 over 1. Then I have 24 over 1 times negative 2x plus 1 over 6. And I'm going to go ahead and put that in parentheses just so I don't lose anything. It's just a good habit to get into. Then I have 3x over 8, and I am multiplying that times 24 over 1. Okay? Now, I don't have anything that I can cross cancel in 24 over 1 times 1 over 1.
So it would just be 1, I'm guessing?
It's actually 24.
Oh, 24.
Okay? 24 times 1 is 24.
I had it right the first time. I just thought.
Okay. 1 times 1 is 1. Okay? Here, 6 goes into 6 1 time. 6 goes into 24 4 times. So I have 4 times negative 2x plus 1. Then I have 8 and 24. 8 goes into 8 1 time. 8 goes into 24 3 times. So then I have 3x times 3. Okay? So 24 plus negative 8x. 4 times negative 2 is negative 8. 4 times 1 is 4. 3x times 3 is 9. So then it looks like I have 28 minus 8x. Is that right? Oh, wait. Nope, it's not right. Okay, I lost some stuff over here. Okay, 3x times 3 is 9x. Okay, so now I have 28 minus 8x equals 9x. Okay, 28 minus 8x equals 9x. So I'm going right here. 28 minus 8x equals 9x. So I am going to add 8x to both sides. Okay, now I very easily could have subtracted the 9x and brought it over, and that's generally what I do. But because that x was over there by itself, I just pulled it over. Okay, so anytime you pull it to the right, you're fine. It's just with inequalities, you definitely want to pull it to the left. So now I've got 28 equals 17x. I divide by 17. And my answer is 28 over 17 equals x. And that is my final answer.
Okay, I think I got the answer.
Okay?